Alright, so in the last video I got you up to this point where you have the syringe drawn between a base arm of the crane and a top arm of the crane. So we're going to take a few more steps to make this a little bit more realistic. First we need to have these so that they're actually going to stay separated, because at the moment if I printed it out there would be nothing holding these two red bits apart. So what we're going to do down the bottom is we're going to draw a couple of lines between here, create a planar surface down the bottom. So I'm going to do that now. Now there are a bunch of different ways that you can achieve this in Rhino. I'm just sticking with one tool, which is planar surface. There are faster and easier ways of doing it, but I thought if we stick with one tool it might make it a little bit simpler for you to get started. So I need to build it from 4 edges down the bottom. Okay, so there's my planar surface. I'm going to offset that. Okay, I'm going to move this to my base layer so it's the right color. Okay, so now if I cut this piece of wood out, this piece of wood out, and this piece of wood out, I can glue them together and the base will stay separated. Now I will need to be able to have another piece further up here. So the easiest place for me to draw that is in the midpoint. So I can just click midpoint, 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 midpoint. At the moment I cannot draw that line. That's not a line, that's just the edge of the middle point of the surface. So I need to draw a line from there to there and another one from there to there. Okay, I can then create a planar surface. Offset surface. Stick it on the right layer. Oops, wrong button. Okay, so if I printed out 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, glued them all together, I would have a stable base for my crane. I would do the same thing up here. I would draw something between the ends of that and the ends of that. I'm sure you get the idea. Now I need to be able to mount my syringe to something, because at the moment it's floating in the air. So I'm going to come down and work on this side here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a pin that goes through here, like a bolt or a screw or another piece of wood. So I'm going to click drawing the circles. So while my mouse is down in this view, have a look up in here and you can see where the circle is on the side of your thing. Now you might find that it's in completely the wrong place, so say everything that I'd drawn was over here. When I draw my circle, if you look up in the top view, you'll be able to see there's a little dot that appears about there. So when I start to draw my circle, it's actually nowhere near where my crane is. You can also see it up in this perspective view up here. Okay. So what you can do is you can draw, you can start drawing the circle by clicking in the perspective view so that it's going to end up in the right place. So for example, I can click my circle. Now I need to be looking in a couple of places at the same time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to click just on the edge of this red thing. Okay, now if I draw my circle, it's not facing the right way, so now I move my mouse down to my right hand view, okay, and I can tell it how big I want the circle to be. So I want it to be 10 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the edge of this, then I'm going to move my mouse down to here. I'm going to write in, at the moment it's on radius, so if I want it 10 millimeters in diameter, that should be a 5 millimeter radius. Press enter, and now I have a circle that is 10 millimeters big. And the circle is on the edge of this red piece, which is important. Now I can drag that to where I want it. Now this is where you definitely need to be pressing Alt, because if you don't press Alt, who knows where that circle is going to end up. It could end up like that. It's now nowhere near where it was. So I'm going to drag in this view, and I'm going to hold down Alt to stop it bouncing to things. So I'm going to stick my circle there. Right, now I'm going to make a planar surface with this circle. So I'm going to rename this layer to be pins, and I'm going to work on this layer. So planar surface, I have a blue surface here, and I'm going to extrude that surface, which is what I did in the wheel video, I think it was, and I want to extrude it right through to the end of this red piece here. Right, so it is going to go from one side to the other side. I don't need the surface anymore, so I'm going to hit delete. Now, I showed this in one of the previous videos, but I'll just show it again. At the moment when I'm dragging this view, it's dragging the whole crane. If I click the object and hit Z for zoom and S for selected, I'm now just going to be dragging around this pin object, which is useful for what I'm going to do at the moment. So I need to remove the red part where that pin is, okay, because if you laser cut it out, at the moment it will just laser cut the whole thing, it won't laser cut for this pin here. So in order to do that, I come over to the solid editing tools, which are here, and I'm going to use split. I could use difference. The problem with difference, and I'll show you very quickly, is that this is going to disappear. So I want to take away from these two, and I want to take with this one, but which is great, that's what I want to achieve, but I've lost my pin in the process of doing that. So in order to not lose my pin, I'm going to use split. I'm going to split this surface, this solid and this solid. Press enter when I'm done, and I'm going to split it with this one. Now I'm going to turn off the blue layer. I can't turn off the blue layer unless I click a different layer for the circle to be on. And you'll see that I have here two parts that have now been split off. So I can delete those, and then I can come back to my blue layer, turn my blue layer on. So now I have a pin there, which I can join. I can attach this part of the syringe to this. If I was being really cunning, what I could do, if this was turning and I had drawn this so that the syringe was actually going into it, I could take away this part from the blue so that the syringe sat in the end of this pin. The pin can turn inside the blue piece here, inside the red piece, and because when the crane rotates, I'll just try and show you, when the crane rotates like this, then that blue piece would need to rotate in order to let it rotate around there. So if I wanted to do that, I could use the same tool that we used before, which is split, click that, press enter, click my syringe, press enter, and then if I turn the syringe off for a minute, you can see that all that stuff, delete that, and then the syringe is actually going to fit inside that blue piece, and the blue piece will rotate and allow the this part of the crane to work. Similarly, I could then draw another piece up here to join the top part of the crane to here, and I will need to have a hinge point through the top of this crane as well, so I need another pin to go through here. So I'll just draw this very quickly. I won't talk you through it as much. But just as a recap, hopefully this will remind you what we just did. Now I'm going to split multiple pieces here. So I'm going to split that, and that. And I'm going to split it with that. Okay, then I have that pin there. My crane now should be able to hinge around those 2 points. You can get fancy and you can create these pins. We could 3D print these pins for you. So in the same way that we offset something, so this is just a little bit extra. If you want a little bit extra, you don't need to do this. I could get this curve. Offset it, create a planar surface between there and there, get this surface, 3 millimeters. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to create a planar surface across there. Delete that one. So what I could do now is I could create 2 little plugs that go on the end of this pin here. If I join them together, that is now one piece that's kind of like a T-shape, and then I could 3D print that out, glue this piece onto the end once I've assembled it, and then I should have a functioning crane that will allow these 2 pieces to hinge through the center of this. So the syringe should allow that to move up and down. Okay, good luck. Let me know if you have any problems with that.